Oh, hey, you know the emasculated eunuchs? Today, we will delve into their history and their most unique characteristics. Who were the eunuchs? Eunuchs were men who had their testicles removed, or in other cases, even the entire reproductive system. The term eunuch means guardian of the bed, and this practice was adopted in particular in Africa, Europe, and above all in China, which will be the great protagonist of this story. But why was this practice used? Well, there are several answers. The main one is that we were looking for soldiers whose private parts were emasculated, who were thought to be more loyal and helpful. Another motivation was to have someone with whom to vent sexual impulses or even hold official roles, because they were thought to be more balanced subjects. But the best known case is that they molded themselves into perfect and excellent opera singers. How did emasculation happen, and when did this practice arise? The practice of castration was born 1,000 years ago and remained widespread until just 100 years ago. We narrowly saved ourselves, my boys. Now, to all the males listening, take a deep breath. Emasculation took place using brutal and painful methods. First of all, it was done in the pre-pubertal age. The penis and prostate remained small. The hair did not grow. The voice did not change, and the eunuchi were clearly sterile. However, if done after puberty, there was a total lack of sexual desire. But it was possible to have an erection. And here's the part Jeff doesn't want to hear. The removal of the genitals was done by drugging them with opium and then sitting them in a bath of hot water until they fell into a state of unconsciousness. Then the scrotum was opened and the testicles were removed. In other cases, the whole thing was removed. Given the years in which it was done, it was frequently practiced without any form of anesthesia, but with a clean and direct cut. In fact, the death rate following the operation was high due to infections and bleeding. China and the eunuchs. In the period of the Qing Dynasty from 221 to 226 BC, those who committed criminal acts were punished with one of the 5 punishments. The fourth, called gong, affected both the condemned person and his relatives, and consisted precisely in castration, with the aim at the time of ensuring that the criminal had no progeny. And beyond that, also the condition of slavery. I think they were all very good in that period with these punishments. After emasculation, the eunuchs had to keep their testicles inside a bag, to then be buried with it on the day of their death. Without this procedure after death, it was thought they would not have been able to be reincarnated, roles that the eunuchs held. In the meantime, as this practice became more and more common, the eunuchs became increasingly trusted figures, precisely because it was thought that the impossibility of having children made them more malleable and calm, and that they would not carry out evil deeds and plots. In fact, they began to have political and functional roles. From 907 AD, with the beginning of the new Liao dynasty, they became the guardians of the women of the harems, which for those who didn't know were the places private to women only. In 1402, the Chinese Emperor Yongle overthrew his nephew. People and political officials saw this very badly, and to assert his right to the throne, he created the Forbidden City, in which he surrounded himself only with trusted people, in this case the eunuchs. After this important event, Chinese families began to want to have their children castrated and send them to Beijing in search of money and a more comfortable life. Imagine that after some time, there were as many as 100,000 eunuchs in the Forbidden City alone. Let's take a very short break, and I invite you to like and subscribe if you don't want to be emasculated too. Alright, having said that, let's go back to the video. The eunuchs in the Ottoman Empire. The culture of the eunuchs also began in the Muslim world, about 2 centuries after the Chinese one. When they discovered the various uses of the eunuchs, a real market in slavery towards the eunuchs began, which began from Samarkand to Baghdad. In the residence of the sultans in Istanbul, 2 classes of eunuchs were created, the white eunuchs and the black eunuchs, who were headed and managed by the figure called Kapi Agassi, who managed the functions and tasks that the eunuch should have done. Eunuchs in the West. The culture of the eunuchs also spread to the West, with the birth of the cult of Cybele, a Greek-Roman goddess, taken from Queen Kababa, the Hittite goddess of fertility. According to the religious rites of Cybele, the initiation ceremony had to begin with priests who had their penis and testicles cut off. The funny thing is that outside of religious rites, castration was forbidden at the time, but that with the passage of time, this prohibition was abolished due to the rumors going around from the countries conquered by the West, which said that the eunuchs could be useful slaves to use in your company. Following this news, in the Roman culture of the time, homosexuality was already widespread and accepted, and men and women began to approach the eunuchs as sexual release valves, especially women who preferred the spadonis as they were called at the time. who we remember were eunuchs castrated after puberty, who could have an erection, but not procreate, which was very advantageous for women who did not want unwanted pregnancies. Singing eunuchs. Where the eunuchs were best known to all of us was in the singing sector. But why? At the time of this practice, women could not sing in church, and so they preferred the light voices of the eunuchs who were castrated before puberty. They were perfect for this role, male and with a very childish voice, so much so that over the years they began performing around 1850 until 1930 as true singing professionals, unique and special in their genre. So much so that in that period, the idea of castrating themselves to become the best singers was created, thus reaching 4,000 castrations per year. I guess they had the ambition of becoming some sort of star. Here we are at the end of the video. I would say that the eunuchs were unique in their kind, in which they began their life with a great challenge and difficulty of which they were protagonists, and that the people in the market were antagonistic. Their usefulness and function ended up being quite a triumph for them after all. I invite you to leave us a nice like, subscription, and opinion about this unusual and unique practice. I recommend watching the next videos here on the screen. See you next time!